Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Marvel Champions video. Today, Fantasy Flight released a few more cards for the Ant-Man deck. We should be getting this deck in November. At least that's the tentative release date for it. Some of these cards we've already looked at, so I'm kind of going to go over them briefly. So first up here we have Ant-Man. This is his tiny form. So 2 thwart, 1 attack, 2 defense. Hand size is 5 with 12 hit points. He's an Avenger and he's tiny. PewDiePest. So as a response, after you change his form, remove 1 threat from his game. So part of Ant-Man's whole uh, playstyle is going to be flipping between um, Tiny Ant-Man and Giant Ant-Man, as well as possibly flipping back to his Scott Lang alter ego. And then depending on what form you're in, certain things will happen. So when you flip back into this form, you get to remove 1 threat. So that is Tiny Ant-Man. We're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have Giant Ant-Man. So 1 thwart, 3 attack, 3 defense. He's an Avenger and he's giant. Hand size is 4 with 12 hit points. Has the Giant Nuisance, so as a response, after you change to this form, deal 1 damage to an enemy. So basically, whenever he flips to this, he's going to be doing damage. Whenever he flips into tiny form, he's going to be removing threat. And his stats kind of indicate that. So he's less good at thwarting, but better at attacking, while the tiny Ant-Man is better at thwarting because he's just small and can get into spots and kind of mess stuff up. So that is Giant Ant-Man. We're going to move into the Scott Lang alter ego card, and after that, we're going to they showed a little video on how the actual folding cards will work, and we'll do that as well. And here we are with Scott Lang, the alter ego for Ant-Man. 3 recovery. He's a civilian, and time to unwind. So as a response, after you change this form, heal 1 damage from Scott Lang. So basically, he gets to he flips into this form. You can heal damage, and then possibly also recover to heal a total of 4. Hand size is 6 with 12 hit points. So that is Scott Lang. We're now going to move into a quick little video showing how the flipping or the folding cards are actually going to work. We'll be right back with that. Alright, and now we have this little video here showing how these foldable cards are working. So, as you can see, the alter ego and tiny forms are on the outside here. So there's Tiny Ant-Man, Scott Lang, and then you unfold it. So he flips back, you can unfold it then, and rotate it to become Giant Ant-Man. And then when you flip back into either alter ego form or tiny form, you just fold it back up and then flip it over to whatever side you need it to be on. So that is how the Ant-Man folding card is going to work. I imagine it's the exact same thing with the Wasp. So she'll have her alter ego and tiny and giant forms as well. So we're going to move into a few more cards from Ant-Man's deck, and we'll be right back with those. And we are back with Resize. It's a 0-cost event, part of Ant-Man's deck. Generates a physical resource when you discard it to pay for something else. It's a superpower, and as a hero action, change to your other hero form, draw a card. So if you're tiny, you can go big. If you're big, you can go back to being tiny, and then you get to draw a card on top of it. So a 0-cost to be able to do that, and then potentially also do other stuff is pretty good. So basically, again, if you're small, you flip into large, you get to do certain effects. If you're large and you flip back into being small, you can do certain effects as well. And I imagine if you were to, I imagine this could be played multiple times. I don't know how many copies of Resize are going to be in the deck, but I imagine you could resize to be large, do something, flip back to be tiny with another resize, and then potentially flip again if you can flip between tiny and large or giant without having to because I know you can flip your form once per turn, so I imagine these are going to be on top of that, I would imagine. So that is Resize. We're going to look at our next card. And we are back with the Pin Particles. We looked at this in the other Ant-Man video. But it's a resource, and it's a hero response. After you spend this card, heal 2 damage from your hero if you are in giant form, or draw 1 card if you're in tiny form. So basically, you discard this to play another card, and depending on what form you're in, you either be healing damage if you're giant, or drawing cards if you're in tiny form. So that is the Pin Particles. We're going to move into our next card. And next we have Ant-Man's Helmet, and this is one of the cards I'm really kind of interested in. So it's a 3-cost upgrade, it's armor and it's tech. As a hero response, generates a mental resource when you discard it. But as a hero response, after you change to giant form, heal 2 damage from your hero. And then as a hero response, after you change to tiny form, draw a card. I imagine that is on top of the added effects for also flipping into those forms as well. So if you're giant, you go small. You get to draw a card. And then if you're small again, like giant and going small, you get a certain effect. And if you're um, small and going giant, you get a different effect. But then I think these will actually stack on top of the effects that are already there for changing forms to begin with. And I imagine, for example, if you do a resize, which we just talked about, so resize, you get to draw a card off of resize and flip forms. And then, depending on what form you're going into, you might get to draw an additional card if you have the helmet on Iron, or have the helmet on Ant-Man. So if you use giant, and you basically flip forms with resize, you get to draw a card there. And if you're going turning into tiny Ant-Man, you get to draw an additional card with this helmet. So that's pretty cool. So we're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have the Risk Gauntlets. It's a one-cost upgrade. It's an item and it's tech. Or when you discard it, you get a mental resource. And as a hero action, if you're in giant form, you can exhaust the gauntlets and spend 2 physical energy or physical resources to stun an enemy. That's pretty cool. And then if you are in tiny form, you can exhaust it and spend 2 energy resources to confuse an enemy. So that is just really cool because if you like be like, hey, we don't really want to get attacked this turn, I'm gonna I'm gonna basically flip into giant form, and use the spend 2 physical resources to stun them. Or if we don't want the villain to be scheming, we can basically if you're tiny, you can then spend those 2 energy resources to confuse that enemy so they can't scheme. They basically do their scheme or do their attack, and then discard the stun token or the confuse token, and then nothing else happens there. So those are the Risk Gauntlets. We're going to move into our next card. And we're moving into some of Ant-Man's allies now. So it looks like if this is in his main 40 card deck, the pre-build deck, it looks like they're going leadership. So leadership Ant-Man will probably be the default build. But we have Ant-Man, another Ant-Man here. So we have zero cost Ant-Man. This is Hank Pym. So 0 cost, 2 thwart with 1 incidental or consequential damage, 2 attack with also 1 consequential damage, and 0 hit points. He's an Avenger, and he gets +1 hit point for each Pym counter on him. And as an interrupt, when he enters play, paste 1 Pym counter on him to a maximum of 4 for each resource you overpaid for Ant-Man's cost. So if you pay 1 resource, he comes in with basically 1 hit point. 2 is going to be 2. 2 resources is 2 hit points. 3 is 3, and 4 resources is 4 hit points. So depending on if you got nothing else to do that turn, you can maybe like dump all your resources or a lot of your resources into getting Ant-Man out there, and then he'll be basically a 2 thwart, 2 attack with 4 hit points. Or for example, if you only need to do 2 damage to win the game, you could pay 1 resource, because I think he can't do anything with 0. So basically, you pay 1, you have a 1 health, 2 attack with 1 consequential damage, and then you can just win the game that way. So he seems pretty interesting. So that is the Hank Pym version of Ant-Man. We're going to move into our next card. And we are back with our next ally. So this is Giant Man, Razmal Horta. 5 cost, generates a physical resource when you discard it. So again, 5 resources, 2 thwart, 2 attack with 1 consequential damage for each. Comes in with 4 hit points. He's an Avenger and he's giant. And he gets +2 attack while he has 3 or more remaining hit points. So basically, you get a couple attacks here that will essentially do 4 damage. And then once he drops below 3 hit points, he'll be doing 2 damage. But if you have cards that'll let you heal your allies, you'll basically be able to keep him at that +2 attack, as long as he doesn't get removed from blocking damage or defeated some other way. So if you can just constantly keep pumping him with healing, you'll be able to keep him at his maximum damage, which is it does cost 5, but he basically has again 4 attack. As long as he keeps above 3 hit points, just keep healing him, and then he'll have that 4 attack pretty much as long as you keep him healed. So that is a pretty cool card. We're going to move into our next card here. And we are back with Stinger. This is Cassie Lang. So one cost ally generates a energy resource when you discard it. 1 thwart, 1 attack with 1 consequential damage each. Has 2 hit points, and you can only play it if your identity has the Avenger trait. And Stinger does not count against your ally limit. So you are limited on the allies you can play, but Stinger lets you basically go above that. So basically a 1-1, essentially one thwart, one attack for 1 with 2 hit points. And then if you have a lot of allies out, or like your maximum amount of allies, you can still play her. So that is pretty cool. So that is Stinger. We're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have the Reinforced Suit. It's a 1-cost upgrade. Its armor and its tech. It generates an energy resource when you discard it. Attached to an ally, max 1 per ally. The attached ally gets plus 2 hit points. So if you attach this to Giant Man, for example, he'll be able to. He'll essentially have 6 hit points, and you'll be able to do a few more attacks with him before he drops below 3. And then again, there's still other stuff you can play on him to heal him beyond that as well. So a 1-cost upgrade to make your allies stick around for longer, especially allies that that hit hard or take a lot of consequential damage. This is a good way to kind of have your allies stick around a little bit longer. So that is the Reinforced Suit, and we're going to move into our last card. And the final card we're going to look at today is Team Building Exercise. We talked a little bit about this card during the last AntMan video, but it's a 2-cost support, generates a physical resource when you discard it. It's just a basic card, so it can go into any deck. It is a hero action, exhaust Team Building Exercise to play a card from your hand that shares a trait with your hero, reducing its cost by 1. So this will essentially allow you to get out Stinger for free, since Ant-Man has the Avenger trait, and so does Stinger. You can exhaust this to, she normally costs 1, so you can then basically just get Stinger out for free, or just subtracts the cost of 1 off of, let's say, another Avenger card, or whatever other traits you're building around. So if you're playing like a shield deck or a spy deck, you can basically just exhaust this and play another spy for less. So that's pretty cool. So that is Team Building Exercise. That's going to do it for today's video. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. We're hoping to see more, hopefully more cards for this deck and the other possible decks as well. And so there'll be videos when more of those cards get revealed. But again, that's going to do it for now. I want to thank you for watching, and take care.